Welcome to the XRP podcast. I'm your host, Andrew, the XRP Maximalist. If you'd like to join me or contribute to the podcast, you can find me on Twitter at XRP Podcast with 2 Ps. This is where you can connect to me directly with suggestions, ideas, or any form of constructive inquiry. This episode of the XRP podcast is a feature on SWIFT, which is an acronym for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Telecommunication. SWIFT is a Belgian cooperative formed and owned by banks from countries all over the world. The purpose behind the formation of SWIFT was a goal of creating a global financial messaging service and a common language for international financial messages. Throughout our episode, we discuss the history behind SWIFT, what SWIFT does today for the over 200 countries it serves, and busting the many myths and misconceptions surrounding their work. And finally, the connection between SWIFT and the innovations being made today in blockchain by companies such as Ripple to build upon the infrastructure that has been laid out by SWIFT and other financial messaging standards. Let's get started. SWIFT was founded on May 3rd of 1973 in Brussels, Belgium, in order to tackle the issue of cross-border payments. 239 banks from 15 different countries came together through the common necessity of providing a reliable messaging system that would validate the accuracy and legitimacy of financial communications, then direct the messages from one bank to another, while ensuring the accuracy of the messages and the data within these transmissions across linguistic and system boundaries. All of which is really just a fancy way of explaining the many processes and steps involved in transferring money between banks and across borders between countries. Prior to SWIFT, all the aforementioned processes were done by using a system called TELEX, T-E-L-E-X, which is short for Teleprinter Exchange. This was developed during World War II. It was a physical device similar to a typewriter in physical features and was one of the first ways data was processed and transmitted between financial institutions. But there was a huge flaw in the telex system. Telex messages never followed a standard format. Because of this, there was huge room for human error through sentences, language barriers, and interpretation, which meant longer processing times. Due to this, as money transactions increased, the flaws in design became more and more apparent. Hence the eventual foundation of SWIFT in Brussels, with SWIFT going live in 1977, 4 years after being founded. In today's world, SWIFT features over 11,000 financial institutions in over 200 countries. When a SWIFT money transfer occurs, there's no actual physical or digital money being moved. Instead, the process is initiated through a SWIFT or BIC code, which stands for Business Identifier Code. It's an 8 to 11 character code that identifies your bank, country, location, and branch. Through this, SWIFT provides a secure, reliable, and fraud-proof method of sending messages between banks. The way money is moved in the real world today is very similar to the manner in which tokens and coins are moved across a blockchain. When money is moved, it is a change in ledger entries between the two parties that are involved within a transaction. Let's say we have Bank A and Bank B. If Bank A has a ledger and Bank B has a ledger as well, when a financial transaction occurs, detailing money being sent from Bank A to Bank B, this initiates a message from Bank A to credit Bank B, adding a new deposit of funds into an account at Bank B, while Bank A simultaneously creates an entry for a debit or a loss of funds from the account the transaction initiated from in Bank A. This transaction is recorded into the ledgers of both banks and is a matter of accounting and balancing numbers as opposed to any physical or digital assets being relocated. SWIFT's role in this process is to serve as an intermediary which transmits these messages for debit or credit entries between banks, while also serving as a central party of trust, a common language between countries, and the underlying technology that facilitates the occurrence of these transactions. When a message is sent via SWIFT, it is recognized and verified as authentic by the financial institution receiving the message. Messages sent via SWIFT also follow a standardized format for the contents and data within the message, separate from the SWIFT or BIC code. When a SWIFT message is sent from Bank A to Bank B, an individual at Bank B will see and verify data contained in the message, such as whether it's really coming from Bank A to Bank B, whether the message relates to a debit or a credit, and whether it's pertaining to Bank B's Nostro or Vostro accounts, and vice versa if Bank B were to send a message to Bank A. You see, the reason why this global game of Moneyball is sustainable by these financial institutions is because of Nostro and Vostro accounts. This is Latin in origin, Nostro and Vostro meaning ours and yours respectively. I also like to think of it as mine and yours just to simplify it. After a SWIFT message has been confirmed, Bank A, from our example, which sent money to Bank B, deposits funds into a Nostro Vostro account, and Bank B, that received the transaction, debits the Nostro Vostro account of Bank A and credits the recipient of the transaction at Bank B. Typically, banks keep a reserve of funds in Nostro Vostro accounts in order to further expedite this money transfer service for businesses and consumers to provide near instant transactions. So in conclusion, the two processes involved in a financial transaction is 1, a SWIFT message or financial message, and 2, the debit and credit of Nostro Vostro accounts that banks hold with each other. This all in order to facilitate and enable cross-border payments. All of this means we have a system that is all about keeping track of payments, which is owned, centralized, and privatized, and built by the biggest banks in the world. To be more specific, it's owned by the G10 and the European Union. With the critical role SWIFT holds in modern-day financial infrastructure, it's a big deal if there are any black swan events which result in hacks or downtime for their systems, as that removes the central piece of fraud prevention, reliability, and transaction accuracy, which enables banking institutions to cooperate with each other around the world and trust each other. The fundamental weakness identified with the SWIFT system stretches beyond accidents and acts of terror. SWIFT operates based on a small group of entities which control the parties who can operate under the network, through sanctions and regulations as well as status. This means other entities who wish to use the entirety or sections of this data to offer the consumer or other businesses real-world business products and services of superior or equivalent value are locked out of the system without explicit permission from a bank or the countries which they represent as a middleman to the access of safe, reliable data and technology. Remember, SWIFT is owned by the G10, and in order to get access to the SWIFT system, which the global financial industry is essentially run upon, you must gain access by either being or using one of the larger banks as intermediaries, which usually maintain a presence within the United States of America due to the US dollar being the global reserve currency. This leaves the large, gaping flaw of a global financial messaging system being misrepresented and abused by US laws and regulations. I know I like to use big words, but I'm speaking about very realistic possibilities. Look no further than Russia. February of 2022, we enter Russia. The sanctions which were placed upon the Russian economy after Russia's decision to invade Ukraine. Due to this, the Russian banks, including VTB Bank, Bank Rossiya, and 5 others were barred from the SWIFT messaging system, an act which Russia previously expressed in 2014 would be equivalent to a declaration of war. I am choosing to bring this up not because I believe Russia was unjustly banned from the SWIFT system. I choose to bring it up because a global payment system should not be controlled and influenced by a country or a private group's policies. It should be subject to the unanimous governance of a decentralized community, the same decentralized community that actually uses the network, irrespective of politics. Due to SWIFT's centralized role within global telecommunications in the financial industry, there have been newcomers born in the age of modern-day blockchain technology who wish to disrupt SWIFT's monopoly on telecommunications. These disruptors include, but are not limited to, XRP and Ripple, Stellar XLM, and other payment protocols that all have the goal of succeeding SWIFT as the underlying technology which powers telecommunications. Why? Because trillions of dollars in transactions are at stake, not every year, not every month, but every single day. These technologies are promising, but I don't want you to get lost in the hype. At the beginning of season 2, I emphasized that new technologies, industries, and markets take time to develop. This development doesn't just include the maturity of the protocols and laws and policies. It also refers to the adoption curve with any new technology. In its current iteration, blockchain technology and cross-border payment protocols involve a learning curve for both institutions as well as end users. However, once this technology has matured, it will be naturally embedded into our future payment systems, and that learning curve will be reduced or outright eliminated so that we may perform these transactions as seamlessly and frictionless as making a purchase through Apple Pay or Cash App, while still maintaining and even enhancing the security and modularity of the telecommunications industry through programmable and amendable blockchains and contracts, private and public blockchains, a ledger that is permanent and immutable for all parties to see, the ability to hold your own funds and be your own bank, and a network with less barriers and gatekeepers to its utilization. This technology will not be adopted overnight, but the moonshots and hype that will occur from the utilization of this technology will, once the work has been done, through years of toil and effort. Over time, we will see the global financial industry being changed from its core by blockchain technology and the players we see changing the fintech industry today. Thank you for listening to the XRP podcast. In this episode, we spoke about the background of SWIFT and why it was founded, how the SWIFT system actually operates in the world today, along with everything involved in a basic SWIFT transaction. We also spoke about what the future holds for SWIFT and the financial industry with the birth of currently more niche financial messaging protocols such as XRP, and the platforms being built upon blockchain technology in order to radicalize the financial industry. I am your host, Andrew, the XRP Maximalist. If you'd like to connect, you can find me on Twitter at XRP Podcast with 2 Ps. Links to any articles and information cited will be in the episode description. I cannot tell you how much I look forward to the future with all of you. I'm freaking excited. I'm super excited, and I'm so hyped up. I want to keep talking about it, and I can't shut up about it. Thank you, and take care.